Everyone, it's Melody here from Mrs. Munch's Munchkins, and this live is going to be about how to start using slides by Monday. So I'm going to share 3 different ways you can start using slides in your classroom right away. I have a freebie to go along with what I'm going to be sharing as well. We're going to have some time for Q&A at the end. So thank you so much for being here if you're watching live, and if you're watching the replay, thank you for watching that as well. And then at the end of this live, I'm also going to give you a discount code if you are interested in learning more. I offer a full course on how to implement slides into your classroom, how to create them, how to teach with them. That's my course, Slides Made Simple. So stay tuned for a discount code at the end of that. But let's get right into it. Thank you so much for being here. And feel free to ask questions as we go along. I will try to be watching the chat. First, can you guys hear me okay? I just wanted to make sure before I talk too much more. If you could let me know by leaving a little comment at the bottom if you can hear just fine, that would be great to know. Just so I don't talk your ear off and then you tell me. Okay, people are saying yes, sound is good. Okay, good sign, thank you so much. Okay, so let's start with what do I mean when I'm talking about classroom slides? I'm talking about slides you would display on the board. Here's an example. This is a morning mark slide that you would display throughout the day for you and for the class. I did my hand motions backwards. For you and for the class that would benefit you while you're teaching. So the slides have so many benefits, but a few of them are increasing your confidence because you can plan out what you're doing on the slides. They can be up while you're teaching, so they're increasing your confidence. As you go through the lessons, they're improving the flow of the day, your transitions, and they're giving your students extra visuals that support them as learners, especially our students who might really miss directions or need extra visual cues in order to follow along with the lesson. So super valuable in many ways. Those are just a few reasons I love using slides and loved them in my classroom. So 3 ways you can start using slides by Monday. The first one is what I just showed you by implementing a morning slide. So this would be the slide that is on the board when your students come in every single day. So that is probably the easiest slide to start with. So I had to use this one. And if I haven't mentioned all of the slides I'm showing you, you can get as a freebie. I'm going to add the link to this slideshow to my bio. If I can, I'll also program it where you can leave a keyword and then I can just send it to you automatically. But every slide you see, you can get as part of a freebie as well. So the morning work slide is a great staple because this gives students directions as soon as they come in. You can add visuals to this super easily. So if you're using Google Slides or PowerPoint, you can add images into your slides to show exactly what you want them to do, which is really valuable, especially with younger learners who aren't readers yet. But even with older students, even with high school students, you could use slides to give a visual agenda of what they need to do when they come in. Even if it's literally the same every single day, a morning work slide is a great place to start. So this is what I used in my classroom. When they came in, they would do their handshake with me, which is what they did to get in the door. Then they had a digital check-in on Google Forms that they did every single day. We knew the process of how to do that. They'd get on and do that. Then if they had any catch-up work, that was a folder they had with any unfinished work. They had to pick a piece of work to catch up on. A lot of times they were already caught up, so then they could go to a STEM bin choice, or sometimes I'd put like play a math game as another choice. So this was what they saw every single day. I would put what day of the week it was and what our special for the day was, because our specials did change daily and they were always wondering what they were. So that was easy for them to know. They can just look and see what special are we going to today. It was in this slide. That would also be a great place to insert a visual. If you have younger learners, you could put like a visual of an art palette or of a basketball for a PE or whatever else. That would be a really easy way for them as soon as they come in to know this is what's going on. So morning work slide is the number 1 thing. The next type of slide, the second type of slide you could start using right away by Monday are group slides. So this would be great for math rotations or reading groups. So whichever you use, you could add to this template or subtract based on how many rounds of groups you do a day and how students are divided. My students were usually in 3 groups. So really simple slide, but so valuable. They knew to find their group based on finding their name. And then on one side, it tells them where to be in the classroom. So like the polka dot rug was a location in the classroom where a station happened. The carpet was at the front of the room by the board. And the group table was back by my desk with me. So they knew where to go, and this is what they were doing. So they could look at the board easily and go, okay, I should be on this program, or I'm playing this board game in math, or I'm doing my lesson work with the teacher at the table. So really quick and easy, so valuable. No matter when students came in and out of the room, they could look and know exactly what everyone was doing, where they should be, and what the activity was. So I have these for each round. There's also a timer. Some teachers love using timers. I was not one of those teachers because sometimes our rounds were more or less time depending on how much help the students at my table needed. So I personally didn't like the timer because then the time would be up and my class would be like, oh, time to switch. And I might be like, oh no, we have a few more minutes. Like I need to finish something with the group that I have. So I personally didn't always use the timers, and my students just knew that the round was over when I rang our chime. But there are some teachers who live by the timers, so you kind of have to figure out what works best for you. But there's a timer, you could change it and embed any timer that suits your needs. This one's 15 minutes a round, or of course you could start it and then drag it to be less time if you think you don't need as much time as that. But that is a really good one as well. Here's what I did to make my life really easy. I made probably 20 different sets of these group slides. So they all were the same template, but I would change out the activities. And then I would just save them in my weekly slideshow so that whenever it was time to do groups, I wasn't having to change everything out. Even though I could do that, I could go in manually and type in what I wanted them to do for each station. But instead, I just had all different options for myself saved so that I could be like, yes, I want them to do this rotation today. I could grab those slides, copy and paste them into my day so that it was already pre-laid out. So stations was never stressful to me because I knew that either if I wanted them to do something specific, I could go and change it manually, or I could just go to what versions I'd already saved and could just grab one that worked and paste it in for the day. So really easy station work. I'm going to talk a little bit about math stations because I feel like that is something that most people will have similar, but we usually did one math game. So I would put all different versions of math games they could play. We did one technology station, so I would put one technology game in that. And then they always did some independent work at my table. So that I never changed it based on what the work was. I just put independent work because they knew that meant whatever I was giving them at the station is what they were doing. So really easy setup for your slides. Could use that right away and could easily change it and use it all year long. So station slides are another one. Curious if anyone has already been using station slides. I know some teachers have like a display in their classroom that they like manually move. That was a little more tedious for me. I kind of tried that my first year and then found the slides were really a streamlined way to go for me because I didn't have to adjust anything the day of. It was just already on my slideshow. Okay, some of you are already doing that. Awesome. Another thing I love is you can customize colors of the slides. So all the elements you see, like all of these boxes, can change colors if you want them to like match your station. Oh, some of you already use these. That's awesome. Yeah, I have station slides in every single slide set that I sell because I just find they're a must-have, and then I just change the colors. Okay, let's go on to the third type of class slide you can start using right away by Monday. This time I put in a classroom meeting slide. So again, you can get all of these slides as a freebie that I'll add to my bio in just a moment. Class meeting slide is a great way to reflect at the end of the day. If you're not doing class meeting, I would highly encourage it. I even could do it in as little as 5 minutes. We just didn't get to do every element. When we only had 5 minutes, I tried to leave 10 to 15, but 15 can be hard to come by when you're cleaning up at the end of the day. Class meeting slide was really simple. We would go over what our scoreboard was for the day. That was a classroom management thing we did. Then we would talk about highlights of the day. I loved doing that just to hear what activities stood out to my students. Kind of gave me a clue of like, okay, what things should we be doing more of? What things from the day did they really enjoy? So we'd go around and share a highlight from the day. We tried to do highlights that everyone experienced. So instead of being like, oh, my highlight was when I got this special like award, or I got to have lunch with the principal or something, like that's a good highlight, but we also want to be sharing like what are highlights that everybody did. So we tried to do a little bit of both, like what's a highlight that we all experienced, like an activity we did, what's something we did in class. Basically, that was a highlight is what I was looking for so that I could more fine tune that. Yes, class meeting is such a sweet time of the day. Then we would do compliments. This was probably the class's favorite element of class meeting because everybody loves to be praised or to hear something good about themselves, loves to feel seen. So I would do compliments. Usually I did that in the form of like a brag tag where I would give a compliment and they'd get to wear that little tag on their shirt and take it home. They loved getting a brag tag, but they also loved getting compliments from peers. So they would go around and we would just say, name a compliment, something good somebody did today that you noticed. And we tried so hard to say, not just your close friends. What is something you noticed in somebody that might not even be somebody that's your closest friend in class? Because we want to be seeing everybody and recognizing everybody. So they would say something like, I noticed so-and-so was really focused during our math time. Or I noticed this person was really quiet in the hallway. I noticed this person followed directions quickly. We just really were focusing on our classroom values, and then they were picking up on that and awarding compliments to other people. It was a really sweet time to hear the compliments that they had for each other. We really looked forward to that. Oftentimes that could go on forever, which is so sweet, but when you don't have a lot of time at the end of the day, I would usually say like, okay, we have time for 5 compliments. Let's do 5. And then, if you didn't get to say your compliment in front of everyone, you could just say your compliment to the person you were going to tell it to. But after 5, we usually say, okay, if we don't have time for more, we're going to have to stop there. And sometimes they'd be like, man, because they really want to say their compliments out loud. Another common one was like, this person played with me at recess or invited me to play at recess. That one always touched my heart because we do lessons and morning meeting on including other people. So that one was really sweet. Then the last thing we did was apologies, which this idea came from Lolo Loves Learning here on Instagram. Such a sweet idea. Nobody's ever forced to give an apology, but it's offered. So if you had a conflict with somebody during the day and you want a chance to make it right or just offer an apology, then you can. So sometimes nobody had one to give, and sometimes there were quite a few of somebody going, I'm sorry I talked to you in a rude way, or I'm sorry that I told you we couldn't play with you at recess. Something like that. It was really eye-opening for me as a teacher. A lot of playground things would come up during this time, things that I hadn't heard about, usually minor things that were just peer situations. And so that was a really great way to kind of resolve issues, but it was never a thing where like if we had an issue I would say, oh, you have to apologize, because forced apologies are never what people want to hear. So that was just an option, and like I said, sometimes nobody jumped on it and sometimes there were quite a few. So it really just depends on the nature of your class, but modeling that is another great way to get more participation. So like if I had an issue during the day, like, I'm sorry, Mrs. Munch wasn't very prepared. She couldn't find her clicker and you guys had to wait on me 5 minutes while I found the things I needed for my lesson. I would try to offer apologies too, even little ones, just so they could see that modeled and could be emulating that in their own ways as well. Then we always ended the day with this phrase. So I would say, no matter what happened today, and they would say, tomorrow is a new day. And that was just a sweet way to end our time in the classroom on a positive note, reminding them that each day is a reset, each day is a new chance to come into the classroom and make it a good day. So I just loved ending that way. Even for me, if it was a hard day, that was another kind of just way to kind of reset and remember that each day is new, and we're not going to let things that were hard in one day ruin the next day. We're going to mentally reset and redo every single day. So those are 3 really simple sets of slides. Again, you can get all of these for free if you don't already have them in a slide set. Morning work, one that you have on the board every single day. Include visuals, add those in. I usually added in the must do and may do icons. So I have a mustard bottle on their check-in because I knew that was something they must do. Then I would have a picture of a ketchup bottle by ketchup because that was something they were catching up on. And then I would have the mayo bottle on the last option. Usually I'd just have STEM bins, and there were different STEM bins they could pick from, or I'd put STEM bins or math game or STEM bins or drawing, something like that, to give them a few may-do options. And that's what we did for that. And then we've got the group work slide, so for math groups or reading groups, and you've got your class meeting slide. All 3 of those super, super simple, but can add a lot of structure and are really visually useful for your students as well. So all 3 of those, you can get that slide freebie. I'll be adding that to my bio. It'll just say slide sample freebie, and you can have all of those if that's something that would be helpful to your classroom. So we have a little bit of time now. If you have any questions about using slides in your classroom, go ahead and let me know what those are. I would love to answer them. Let me kind of go back here and see if I missed anything. If nobody has any questions, I can also, of course, I'm so glad you liked the apology idea. I can also share about how I set up slides for the entire day and how you could, like, entry level, get started with that if you're just wanting to start seeing more slides. Okay, I see a question. Tell me more about class management and morning meeting. Okay, so classroom management as a whole, I did a whole group system and I had an individual system, so those kind of went hand in hand. Ooh, I see more questions, yay. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit more about management first. So for whole group, we would do the whole brain teaching method, which is called the scoreboard. And I would have a smiley face, and then we called it the oops face. And so as the class is doing things in whole group, we would be looking for ways I could award them points and looking for things that we needed to retry. So if we needed to retry, that would be an oops point. Like if we were coming to the carpet and I'd said, okay, level 0 voice, come to the carpet, and there was a lot of chatting, I might be like, oops, I think we need to retry that. That would be an oops point. And then we would retry it and do it the right way. So really just reinforcing the expectation that we're gonna do things in the procedure we've been taught, and we're gonna do them in the way that our classroom expectations say they should be. But if they did it right, first try, excellent, I would be like, wow, that was an excellent, you all came to the carpet so quietly, and I'd give them a point on the smiley side. So at the end of the day, we're just checking the scoreboard to see, in class meeting, we're checking the scoreboard to see how many points they got on each side. I would say 90% of the time, maybe more, they would be winning the scoreboard, and then that led into another reward system I used, where if they got more points on the smiley side, they earned a letter to a mystery phrase, and once the phrase was all spelled out, they got to do whatever that reward spelled. So that was my whole group management system. I also had an individual plan that was just based on logical consequences and warning. Then you have to move away if needed, really logical consequences type thing. And it's based on the book, The Classroom Management Secret by Matthew Linson. Highly recommend that if you haven't read that yet. Really good book on just structuring your system in a way that is consistent for kids and following through with what you say so that they know the expectations are needing to be met and that there are consequences for not doing them. So that was the basis of my structure for individual behavior, and those two systems together were really magical for me. I really loved how they complemented one another. Okay, I see a question about how to make groups. That was data-driven for me. My school used different systems, like for reading we did where they would read to us and we'd assess them on their level, but then they also did the STAR benchmark system where they would take the computerized test. And so those things were part of the data, but a lot of it was observational. We would give like a pre-test before a math unit. So if we're doing telling time, we would give a pretest on telling time and then look at the results and assess, okay, these students really know time already. They're gonna be in the high group this round. These students are on level, let's put them in the middle group. These students need a lot of support. They'll be in the lower group where they're getting more support from me during independent work. So a lot of that's data driven. And with reading, it was, all the groups are fluid, so they can move within different groups based on how they were reading. And we were trying to target what phonological skills they needed. So we'd look at what phonics skills they had, what ones they needed to work on, and we'd make groups based on what the students needed to work on so that when we pulled them, they were going to be working on a skill that they needed. So that's kind of a quick overview. Yes, to answer your question, Nancy, these are Google Slides, but one thing I love about Google Slides is you can download them into PowerPoint if you prefer. I love Google Slides because it's really easy to link to things and you can embed videos really easily. So that's one of the reasons why I ended up going all Google Slides. I started all on PowerPoint. So that was a really hard switch for me because I just love the font options that you can have in PowerPoint. Google has quite a less variety of cute fonts and you can't import custom fonts. So anytime you see a cute custom font, that is saved as an image, so you can't just edit it. So that's a bit tedious. So I usually just go by the Google fonts instead of doing that big process, but I do find they're really easy to share. I love that they're stored online. That just makes life really easy. Okay, you're so welcome. I'm glad some of you have liked the ideas. Let's see what other questions. Okay, somebody wants to see a whole day. So let me pull up an example because that's always fun. So you can just see a real in-class example. So my slides, I would set them up for a whole week. I have a template that I use to do that, so I'm not like remaking the template every single week. That would take forever. So I make a template based on my schedule. So if I know the order of our day is, okay, we're gonna do morning meeting after morning work, then we're gonna do phonics, then we're gonna do writing, then we're doing math, then we're doing recess. I just set up my slides to follow that exact layout of the day. And that's helpful in itself. Like that's nice. Let's see if I can find a replicate of this week from last year. So that would be January 6th. Oh, yep, here it is. So I would replicate my schedule on the slides, one, and then I just embed any slides that I've made for specific units. So this was quarter 3, week 1. I always put timers at the beginning of my slide sets in case I have an activity where I want to give the class a timer. I also always have these at the start of my slideshow. These are must-do, may-do boards. They came super in handy, another one you could implement really quickly, because if we just had an odd chunk of time, say there was like an assembly, and so it cut into our routine of the day and we came back and I was like, man, I can't teach my full lesson, but I don't want to just waste this time, I'd often put in a must-do, may-do choice board. Or if it was just a day I was like doing assessments, must-do catch-up board, must-do catch-up, may-do board, lots of options I would keep for myself there. So here is a day. We came back on a Tuesday last year, it looks like, January 3rd, 2023. So this was my morning work slide. I had 2 must-dos and a may-do for them. They needed to do their check-in, color their coloring page. If they finished, they could do STEM bins or a math game. They didn't have catch-up work because we were coming back from a break, so there shouldn't have been anything in their catch-up folder. Then they would clean up, another visual timer, love those. They knew by the end of the timer they should be cleaned up and seated at their desk, and we would watch morning announcements. So morning routine, school announcements. Our school did video announcements, so I would click there. It would take me to the page where the video announcements were so I could play those. They changed every day, so I couldn't just embed the video to the slides. Then it was time for class meetings, so we would say our class family promise, which reviewed our expectations. We would go over the date for the day. We would do a greeting for the day, sing our classroom song. That one was a new song, so they would be learning it. And then see how this is underlined? This is the first place in the slides where I am linking to another set. So this was morning meeting. And so when I click here, this would take me to a slide set that I created for morning meetings. So morning meeting units were usually 2 weeks long. This one was on New Year things. So then we would do whatever slides for the day were in that set for morning meeting, and then I would return back to the main slideshow and we would continue. So our school had a time called Brain Blitz where they split based on what they needed to work on. Then we did some grammar. Looks like we were reviewing verbs for the day, so I have a verb video in the slides. Here's the grammar page they needed to go to, so it even says at the top what page number, and then that page is there so that I can be doing it with them at the board after they have a chance to do it themselves. And we're reviewing the answers. We're going into phonics, reviewing vowels and consonants. We did that pretty much every day. And word mapping. We'd word map whatever words we were working on for the week. Looks like we were doing a desk swap that day, so I put that into the slides so I didn't forget it. They were getting new desk assignments, so they'd move desks. Then we go into math. So as you can see, we're playing the Save New Year's game that day. We had a birthday, so I put the birthday slide in there. It just literally walks us through the whole day. This is why I love slides. Now we're at reading. So it's really just following the pace of every single day. Here's an example of using visuals in the slides. These were some reading group slides that I have. So I would use visuals instead of words for what station they should be at. And they could look at the visual and know what each of those things meant. So we could go on and on, but that's just a quick example of some slides that I used in a regular day. So let's go down and see if there are any other questions about that. Oh yes, I love giving a pre-test for math too. Okay, somebody says they use slides for the entire day, but they struggle to organize them. I have a day, I have all the curriculum in the slides, and separate them into each day. Okay, yeah, so I found if I had a whole different slideshow for every day of the week, it was a little bit too much work just to stay organized that way, because sometimes if it's Monday and we don't get to everything, then what we're doing would roll into Tuesday. And that was really tedious to have to go back to Monday and move the slides to Tuesday. So I really love doing slides for the week. And then I really love separating subjects into their own unit slides. So when I'm showing you reading, this reading unit is its own slideshow, which is really nice so that whenever I am going through it, if we don't finish something, that's fine. I can just go back to the slide we were last on and we'll stay on that slide until we're done with it. And then when we're ready to move on, I just move to the next slide for the next day. So I preferred that organization because it was just way easier on me to keep it organized, to find what I needed, and I wasn't having to move things through different days. So I preferred that structure. Oh, someone says they bought all the slides. How are your centers done? Yeah, we just did basically 3 groups every day, and I split the students based on a skill where they needed to be. And then I would choose 3 stations to practice their skills. Usually one of those stations was an independent work type of thing or a meet with teacher type of thing. A technology station was really common. So just depending on the subject, we would switch what that was. So if it was reading, technology stations would be Spelling City or Epic, listening to books being read to them, things like that. Where Favorite Storyline Online is another good website where famous people read books to kids, so I loved that as technology options. Okay, let me go through. Okay, do you do the whole week at once? If you miss activities throughout the week, then do you redo your slides? Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I was saying. I do them for the week, that way I'm not having to, I really don't look at them. Once they're made for the week, I usually would make them Sunday and put them all together, and then I didn't really look at them the rest of the week because as we go, I'm just doing the slides that we're on, and then if we don't finish something, we're staying on that slide till we're ready to move on to the next one. So I wasn't really ever adjusting anything day by day, just the morning of. Sometimes I'd take a look through my day and be like, okay, that looks good, or I want to move this, or I want to change that. So I'd edit, if I wanted to change what greeting we were doing for the day, I would make last minute edits, but that's about it. Okay, do you have to create a whole set additional slides to your template slideshow? I think what you're meaning is for the different subjects. I like to do that because it was really easy to find them. If I put all of the slides for each subject in my template for the week, that was hard on myself the next year, having to be like, okay, when did we do this unit? Let me go find those slides I made last year and put them into the next year. That was just confusing. So I found it much easier to make a unit of slides, batch them for 2 to 3 weeks. That whole unit lived in that slideshow. And then when I need that unit in the next year, I just go grab that unit and link it into my next yearly template, my weekly template. So I'm not having to fish out where they were the year before. It was just too much work to do it that way, I found. So streamlining it that way was easier for me. Okay, I haven't given you the discount code yet, and it's 132, so I just realized I should probably do that. So I would, what was I gonna say? I am going to add this freebie that I told you about, the one that I showed you first, to my bio now, and it will just say free slide sample. And then if you wanna know more about slides, you should definitely look into the Slides Made Simple course. I'm walking you through how to do things with slides every single step of the way, how to make them, how to use them to plan a lesson, how to teach with them in class, and all the bells and whistles that would make your life easier planning with slides on top of that. So if you would like to look into the course, use the code Instagram10 and it will give you 10% off the course. So the course link is in my bio, and it's also, you can get it by going back to past reels and commenting on the ones that are about slides, and it'll send you the info for that. Look into it, see if it's something that would benefit you, and if you want to purchase it for the next 24 hours, you can get 10% off with the code Instagram10. The slides course page has way more details about what the course covers, so I'll let you kind of look at that for yourself. But again, Instagram10 is the code to use. And I will put all this information I just said about the free slide set in my bio so that you can go grab that. Thank you guys so much for being here. It was fun to teach you a little bit more about slides. Looking back to make sure I didn't miss any questions. Okay, I think we're good. Thank you guys for being here. See you in the next one.